This is a re-recording.
Like a strange coincidence or coincidence, because I just completed an unbound motherhood book as interference and thus generative. There's a rectangles, bright colors on the
Glitch. That's what first drew me to Moira's work, was what I perceived to be glitches on her paint photographs, the little neon tapes, because I had made an unbound book that the photos were having issues, and so I was ending up with these little rectangles in my pictures that I ended up really liking. So after I started reading her work, I started seeing more connections. I'm from a large family. I've got
two, that they're a little cold to their children. I don't know if I embody that or not.
I've got 3 sisters, and my mom was an artist. So another thing that I thought about looking at Moira's work
I
was,
think it's almost up to the child whether they want to see the relationship like that.
what it is to be a mother and an artist, and whether or not artist mothers are distant from their children.
It was not the way he usually spoke, and I think that is why it struck me. It's a paradoxical idea to take material from yourself that's highly personal, idiosyncratic, and strange, even to yourself, and then you make your work on that, and somehow that is supposed to address more people than you started with abstraction.
So talking about my family relates to Moira and might be interesting to you, because sometimes by getting even closer to your subject, you're able to get something that is relatable to others. So that quote was Fassbender from one of Moira's speeches.
So this brings a little bit about exposure and hiding, and which kind of goes back to the idea of interference and the tape hiding or selecting, or both. Chance and staged, both. But as I was reading her and listening to her, I started to kind of wonder or feel her feminist stance, and feminist not an activist, straight-on activist way, but in a working woman, mother, artist. So she has to be a feminist.
So I looked at The Wet and the Dry.
I feel like I could say the tragedy with my father and the tragedy with your father, and maybe we'd all have a story. It would just be different. And maybe we could all say our mother was present, but not present. She did talk about her mother was not present from age 17 on because of the tragedy with her father.
So I looked at The Wet and the Dry and Les Goddess, and the first part of Hemlock Forest, the book that came out with the exhibition. She did talk about the idea of the wet. The idea of the wet is kind of like stuff that she feels compelled to talk about, but at the same time is not necessarily a public thing. So code name for a preoccupation with narrative of the discredited past.
It seems like this idea of the wet might be a specific thing that she does not want to actually reveal, but it is a motivator or prompt, unspoken perhaps. Later, she also puts these things into something called the pathology. So once she has discovered something and realizes it is one thing that she does not want to expose or face head on, then she will place it into the pathology. So it is not what she's avoiding, it is just that she is categorizing it as something not public. She says this while she reveals little bits of details that make us guess as to when or why or what may have happened. But what I'm bringing is my experiences to that. And
so, like I said, La Goddess is a thing that family friends of Mary Shelley's called her and her sisters. And so Moira saw a connection between her and her sisters to La Goddess. But she said that her sisters were more like Amazon warriors than goddesses.
nor do I have an overtly political message. there are actually many things I care about, and I take positions, but I've come at them sideways and let them sit surreptitiously, slip them into the work.
So what to deal with, what not to deal with, how to take things on, but not directly, so that people come to you instead of being made to do it. There is a quote that I want to tell you, but there's also the idea of melancholy through the work, through Mary Shelley, Mary Wollstonecraft, Chantal Ackerman, Louise Bourgeois, Mildred Pierce. The idea that melancholy can overtake without a routine to keep you moving. I believe that her working process that triangulates writing, photography, and film is inspiring. Her attempt to do the two types of writing, cannibalizing itself and chasing the void of an unwritten work, together and separate. Her magical melancholy approach to searching a text and then devouring it. To use chance combined with the methodical, the biographical, how she invites both into her work, all three into her work. She uses a generative triangulation between photography, writing, and film. So not just one process, not just one prompt or motivation, but the interference of a connection while you're working on something else. And I think that's where you get a glimpse of that thing that you didn't know you wanted to talk about until those things collide.
So, not just one prompt, not just one prompt or motivation, but the interference of a connection while you're working on something else. And I think that's where you get a glimpse of that thing that you didn't know you wanted to talk about.
There is a quote that I think all artists should know. To be without a subject for a book, without any idea of the book, is to find yourself in front of a book, an immense void, an eventual book, in front of writing, live and naked, something terrible to surmount. I think that that same quote can be used also in painting, right? So I'm going to say it again for painting. To be in front, to be without a subject for a painting, without any idea of a painting, is to find yourself in front of a painting, an immense void, an eventual painting, in front of the act of painting, live and naked, something terrible to surmount. Thank you, Marguerite Duras. But thank you especially to Moryra, Davey, for sharing your work and for taking the time and the chance in your work and out of your work to visit the low residency program. Thank you.